There is one animal on Earth that has, in a very real sense, defeated death, and it has been drifting through the ocean this entire time, hiding in plain sight. It does not heal from old age. It does not slow it down. When it is sick, starving, or wounded, it simply turns around and grows young again, the way a butterfly might dissolve back into a caterpillar. And the strangest part is that we have known about it since 1996, and most people have never heard its name. The animal is a jellyfish. A small one, no bigger than your fingernail, with a transparent bell and a bright red stomach you can see straight through. Its name is Turritopsis dohrnii, and to understand why biologists started quietly calling it the immortal jellyfish, you have to understand what is supposed to happen to a creature like this. Every jellyfish begins life as a polyp, a tiny stalk anchored to the seafloor, almost like an underwater plant. From that polyp, a free-swimming Medusa buds off and drifts away. That Medusa is the jellyfish you'd recognize. It matures, it reproduces, and then, like nearly every animal that has ever lived, it ages and it dies. The arrow of life points one way, forward, toward the end. Turritopsis breaks the arrow. In 1996, a team of Italian researchers led by Piraino published a study in the journal Biological Bulletin with a title that sounded almost like science fiction: Reversing the Life Cycle. What they had watched in their lab tanks should not have been possible. When an adult Medusa was stressed, starved, injured, or simply growing old, it didn't die. Its bell collapsed, its tentacles withdrew, it sank to the bottom. And then it began to transform back into a polyp, the juvenile stage it had left behind a lifetime ago. The cells didn't just regrow, they changed jobs. A muscle cell could become a nerve cell. A nerve cell could become something else entirely. Biologists call this transdifferentiation, a mature, specialized cell rewriting its own identity. Piraino's team described a transformation potential, in their words, unparalleled in the animal kingdom. An old jellyfish, reaching the end, simply became young again and could begin the whole cycle over. In principle, it can do this again, and again, and again. And if you're finding this as quietly astonishing as I do, that an animal can simply refuse the one thing the rest of us cannot, take a second to subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow. And while you're here, tell me in the comments which animal you want me to unravel next. I read them all, and the best stories on this channel started as someone's comment. Now here is where we have to be honest, because immortal is a heavy word, and it doesn't mean what it sounds like. Turritopsis is not unkillable. A fish can still eat it. Disease can still take it. Out in the open ocean, the overwhelming majority of these jellyfish die ordinary deaths, just like everything else. What it has escaped is not danger, it's the clock. It has no fixed expiration date written into its biology. Left undisturbed, it does not have to grow old. Scientists call this biological immortality, not cannot die, but does not have to die of aging. The difference is everything. And in 2022, researchers finally went looking for why. A Spanish team led by Pascual-Torner sequenced the jellyfish's entire genome and published it in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. They compared it to a close cousin that can't pull off this trick. What they found was telling. Turritopsis dohrnii carries roughly twice as many copies of certain genes tied to DNA repair and protection, along with unusual variants in the genes that govern cell division and protect the very ends of its chromosomes. It is, in a sense, built to keep its cells clean and young, to resist the slow molecular wear that ages the rest of us. But Turritopsis is not the only creature on Earth that bends these rules. And to find the other one, you don't need the deep ocean. You could find it in the moss on your roof. It's called a tardigrade, a water bear, and it is about 0.5 millimeter long, with 8 stubby legs and claws, looking like a microscopic gummy bear that learned to walk. The tardigrade doesn't reverse its age like the jellyfish. It does something arguably stranger. When its world turns hostile, when the water dries up, it doesn't die. it switches off. The tardigrade curls into a desiccated ball called a ton, expels almost all the water from its body, and effectively suspends its own life. Its metabolism drops to a fraction of a percent of normal, close enough to zero that, by most definitions, it is no longer living. This is cryptobiosis, hidden life. And in that state, the water bear becomes almost indestructible. The numbers are hard to believe. Tardigrades have survived radiation doses in the range of 3,000 to 5,000 grays. To put that in perspective, around 5 grays will kill a human being. They've been boiled, frozen near absolute zero, and crushed under pressures greater than the deepest ocean trench. And in 2007, scientists did the experiment that sounds like a dare. They put living tardigrades on the outside of a rocket, opened them to the raw vacuum of space, and let the unfiltered radiation of the sun pour over them in low Earth orbit. In 2008, Ingemar Johnson's team reported the result in the journal Current Biology. Many of the tardigrades came back. They had survived the vacuum of space, and some endured the solar radiation too, the only animal ever known to live through open space and walk away. We have even started borrowing their tricks. In 2016, a Japanese team led by Takuma Hashimoto, writing in Nature Communications, discovered a protein unique to tardigrades. They named it DSUP, short for damage suppressor. It physically shields the animal's DNA from radiation. And when they inserted that single tardigrade gene into human cells in the lab, those human cells became measurably more resistant to X-ray damage, cutting it by around 40%. A protein from a creature in the moss, quietly protecting human DNA. So we have two animals that, between them, seem to break the deepest rule of being alive. One refuses to grow old. The other refuses to be switched off for good. And here is the turn, the thing I keep coming back to. Neither of them is truly immortal. The jellyfish still gets eaten. The water bear, eventually, still runs out of luck. What they've actually done is loosen our grip on a word we thought we understood. We imagine death as a single line you cross once and never return. But out here, in the moss and the open ocean, life treats it more like a setting, something that can be paused, reversed, refused, not conquered, just negotiated. We spend our whole lives certain that aging is simply the price of being alive, the one law nothing escapes. And then a jellyfish the size of your fingernail drifts past, having quietly broken that law millions of times, asking nothing of anyone. It was never trying to be a miracle. It was just living the only way it knew how, the way it has, in plain sight, this entire time. If you'd like a new story like this one every week, subscribe. That's all it takes to keep these coming. And every study mentioned here is listed by name in the description, so you can read the real science for yourself. Thanks for watching Flurry Animals Facts. I'll see you in the next one.